Today, we're jumping into something really special, the final lecture of Professor Michael Cohen. This is a man who was a cornerstone of Japan's University of Aizu for 3 decades. It's a story about building something from, well, nothing, about a really unique way of teaching, and about a deep, deep love for a place. Okay, let's get into it.
Right at the start of his farewell, Professor Cohen says this, and it just perfectly sets the scene, you know? This isn't just a career wrap-up, it's deeply personal. Think about that for a second. He spent literally half of his life growing with this university.
And then he hits us with this. I love this. He calls himself one of the OGs, an original gangster. He's not just some professor who came and went. He was there from day one, a founding member. This one line tells you so much about his role and, honestly, his personality.
So what does it actually mean to be an original? To be part of this vanishing cohort that literally built a university from the ground up? Let's take a look.
So yeah, he showed up when the university was still just an idea, just this new project founded 31 years ago. He wasn't just signing up for a job, he was helping to forge the entire culture and reputation of the school from the very beginning.
And the story of the university itself, wow, it's just as incredible as his time there. It is the classic underdog story, and it starts in, of all places, a field of rice.
Professor Cohen uses this Latin phrase, ex vocio, which means out of nothing, and he means it literally. Before there was a campus, it was all just rice paddies. It was a pretty bold experiment, right? To build a world-class tech university in a part of Japan that had kind of been overlooked by higher education.
And just to give you a sense of what an underdog they were, look at the scale here. The University of Aizu is tiny, about 1,000 undergrads, 100 faculty members, and they're up against absolute giants. We're talking behemoths like Todai and Kyodai. Honestly, by all normal measures, they shouldn't even be in the same league.
And yet, they are. In recent rankings, the University of Aizu climbed all the way to number 11 in the entire country. Like Professor Cohen says, they totally punch above their weight. This small university that was built out of rice fields is now right up there with the big guys.
So you have to ask, how in the world did they pull that off? Well, a huge part of it comes down to the philosophy of teachers like Professor Cohen, who had this belief that teaching isn't about filling buckets, it's about lighting fires.
Okay, so this is the key difference. Filling a bucket is just data transfer. You're just cramming facts into a student's head. But lighting a fire? That's about sparking something inside of them. Curiosity, passion, real creativity. It's about inspiring them to think for themselves, not just telling them what to think.
And he has this really cool way of putting it into practice. Neuron to bit to atom. So, an idea starts in your brain, in the neurons. Then you translate that idea into digital information, the bits. And finally, using tech like 3D printing, you make that digital information real. You turn it into a physical object, the atom. It's this incredible process for making imagination tangible.
And this all connects to his core belief of turning STEM into STEAM by adding art. He actually flips a famous Japanese saying, hana yori dango, which basically means dumplings over flowers, prioritizing the practical over the beautiful. But he insists on putting, as he says, the art for the course. For him, making something beautiful isn't just a nice extra. It's the entire point.
But his life wasn't just about the university. Professor Cohen built this really deep, personal connection to the Aizu region itself, and he found so much joy in its simplest things.
And we're not talking about flashy city life here. For Professor Cohen, the real magic of Aizu was elemental. It was the incredible taste of the drinking water, the quality of the rice and sake that came from that water, the sweetness of the local fruit. It was all about connecting with nature, skiing, hiking, swimming in the lake. It's just a beautiful picture of a life lived in tune with the world around it.
And this little story just says it all, doesn't it? His appreciation for the simple things was so deep that he'd be raving about how delicious the meal was, and he was actually talking about the water. It's just a funny, charming little window into a man who truly valued the basics.
So, after 30 years of lighting fires and appreciating the local water, what does a legacy like that actually look like in concrete terms? Well, the numbers are pretty staggering.
First off, at the undergrad level, he's supervised 157 graduation research students. He thinks that's a university record. He took on the maximum number of students he could, sometimes even more, year after year. But that's just the beginning.
On top of that, add nearly 50 master students that he guided into the next stage of their careers.
And at the very highest level, he supervised 14
PhD dissertations. These are the researchers who are now carrying that torch forward. So when you add it all up, 157 undergrads, almost 50 master's students, 14 PhDs, you see that his legacy isn't just some abstract idea, it's a huge network of thinkers that he personally helped to shape.
So what's his parting advice for the next generation? It's simple, but it's really profound. First, build good habits early on. Second, value experiences way more than stuff. He said he wished he'd been less of a consumer. And finally, find a system to organize your ideas so you don't lose them.
And that brings us to the end. Professor Cohen's story is one of building a university, a community, and a life all from scratch. But that core philosophy of lighting a fire, that's not just for teachers. It's really a challenge for every single one of us. And it leaves us with this one big question to think about. What fire can you light for others?